So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm now going to introduce myself, of course, Ethem Pekin, representing CER, the Association of European Railways, based in Brussels, and to move on with the regulatory framework that is currently in place, and it's quite relevant for the reporting of non-financial indicators. So that is something, I guess, to bridge to what the group here was discussing earlier in the morning. Unfortunately, I wasn't here, but discussing energy with other colleagues at UIC. And that's something that railway sector is already doing a lot in terms of climate mitigation, energy saving, all those things. And in Europe, of course, we have big ambitions under the EU Green Deal to be the first climate neutral continent in the world. So that's in, of course, some decades to go. Many sectors need to decarbonize there, and rail, of course, is there playing very much important role. All this transition for the overall European economy, of course, requires big funding, annual funding to make that transitions. And that's why we have in this framework important component of the money. And then it requires the governance. It may be the taxonomy, classifying the economic activities, green or not. So, and that also very much relates to how you do your reporting. So in that regard, in this center, we have a corporate sustainability reporting directive. And that is going to be my short intervention in the next couple of minutes, which will be the information on sustainability. So not all the climate energy that we probably all know in this transitions, but on the side of social aspects, so that we have currently this directive already entered into force beginning of this year, and now it's about its transposition in member states, so that in 2 years' time we will have major companies, big companies, more than even with 250 employees, to start reporting their indicators. So it is going to be mandatory. That's an important thing to note. And there will be also not only reporting by yourself, but very much looked into the quality of this reporting, how that is complying, so that it means the assurance, the auditings, and there should be dedicated reports. And key, and that will be elaborated shortly with Paolo, on the side of the standards that will be also developed, both for the economy-wide, but general standards, but also sector-specific standards that railway companies, as big companies, need to comply. So in that regard, such requirements will not always be on environment, as I try to highlight, but I highlight this in red. S and G, I guess, is equally there. That will be really much on employees, human rights, bribery, corruption, diversity. So things will be quite big in the scope. It's going to be, of course, an interesting and important exercise, maybe at the same time a challenge, because not all of rail companies were probably addressing that in detail. But it is, of course, to reach out, first of all, to your employees as the rail companies, then what you are doing, what kind of actions you have. Definitely our main goal to achieve the EU goals or global goals of more modal shift to rail in these investments, to reach out to the all investors. Many stakeholders will be keen, including the customers, because at the end that will also matter to have the modal shifts. So in that regard, making more credible reporting, having that to attract the investment will be in this exercise. Of course, there is always risk mitigation when it comes to greenwashing. So in that setting, this activity will be very essential. And when it comes to the reporting, we have to have it also in a side of business activity, that this is a good investment, and we are ready in this couple of years' time with fulfilling this directive. So CR is already very motivated to work with our members, to guide them to be ready in these obligations. And I think this exchange today will be giving us some inputs, and that's where I will conclude. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Also from my side, I'm Paolo Mazzeo. I'm Senior Technical Manager in EFRAG, and I've been in Ferrovie dello Stato Italiane for 5 years. I will give you a really quick overview of which are the ESRSs, the European Sustainability Standard issued last November, and give you an overview also on which are the work that we are doing now on the sector-specific standard. Okay, just to reconnect to what Ethem has just said us, the European Sustainability Standard will be applicable for land undertakings, starting from for companies that are already in the scope of the non-financial directive, starting from the financial year 2024, and for the other land undertaking, starting from the financial year 2025. A general overview of the architecture of the European Sustainability Standard. Now we have issued the sector agnostic standard, which are applicable to all sectors, to all undertakings, and that cover environment, social, and governance. Another layers of this approach is the entity-specific information when the undertaking concludes that an information is not covered or is covered only partially from the one of the sector agnostic standard. They shall report also entity-specific information that cover, of course, that topic. And then we have the layer of sector-specific standards, which are applicable within a sector, and they are more focused, of course, in impact, risk, and opportunity that are more related to that sector. All the standards are structured with 4 pillars: so governance, strategy, impact, risk, and opportunity management, and metrics and targets. As I told you before, we have issued 12 standards across ESG. 2 are cross-cutting standards, so general requirements and general disclosure. And then we have 10 topical standards, 5 for environment, 4 for social, and 1 for governance. One of the key elements stemming from the CSRD is the double materiality. The double materiality has 2 dimensions. There are financial materiality and impact materiality. Sustainability matters is material from the impact perspective if it pertains to actual or potential positive or negative impact from to the environment or for people over the long, medium, and short terms, and from the financial materiality perspective. And the impact materiality perspective is the so-called inside-out perspective. The financial materiality, sustainability matter is material from the financial materiality perspective if it has financial material effects on the undertaking, and it is the so-called outside-in perspective. Okay, this is just an overview of which are the 12 standards. So as I mentioned, we have 2 cross-cutting standards, 5 standards for the environment. So one is on climate change, pollution, water, marine resources, biodiversity, and resource use and circular economy. For social, we have one on workforce, workers in the value chain, consumers and users, affected communities, and one on business conduct. Speaking about the sector, okay. Okay, now the EFRAG is working on over a period of 5 years also on the sector-specific standards that are, of course, complementary to the sector agnostic. Now, during the 2023, we are working on the sector classification standard on mining, oil and gas, agriculture, and road transport. There will be a consultation during the second part of the year, and there will be the consultation period will be 100 days. During the 2004 to 2024, we will work also on the textile, food and beverage, energy, and motor. And till the 2026, we will work on the other sector-specific standards. Okay, how we are building the sector standards? We are in developing the sector standard. We are considering content included in EU-specific or international regulation, content included in the SASB standards, and content included in the GERAI sector standards. This is a possible classification of the rail activities among the different ESRS sector standards. So in the construction and engineering sector, in theory, there will be the activities related to construction and maintenance of rails and underground, and construction of bridges and tunnels. In the sector standard machinery and equipment sector, there will be the manufacture of railways and rolling stock. And in the other transportation sector, passenger rail transport and freight rail transport. To be noted that it's still under approval, so it's just now it's a draft.